Sunday's matchup against the Dallas Cowboys is going to be a get-right game for Jalen Hurts. I'll tell you why coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Louie DiBiase. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Not only thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen every day, but thanks so much for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network. Eagles-Cowboys this Sunday, the national 425 game on Fox. The Eagles trying to end the Dallas Cowboys season, putting them down to 4-6-1 would end any sort of long shot playoff hopes that the Cowboys have in a loaded NFC. The Eagles can really get close to clinching the NFC East already. They could actually, if they win on Sunday, there's a scenario where they could clinch by next Black Friday against the Chicago Bears, continuing to stay in front of everybody else in this conference for that number one seed. It's a really important game for this Eagles football team. So just getting a win in a vacuum is very important. But obviously we know that how you win is going to matter moving forward. Finding a way to get back on track on offense will make this team, I think, feel a lot more confident that push comes to shove in the playoffs if the defense, and I think they will be able to carry them the majority of the time. If there is a game or two where this offense has to ball out and they have to carry their weight, maybe even be the reason that you win a football game, that this offense is still capable of that. So bouncing back against the Dallas Cowboys would really, I think, go a long way, even though it's a mismatch and not a great defense. Just beating anybody productively on the offensive side of the football, I think, is a step in the right direction. I do personally believe that this game is going to be Jalen Hurts' get-right game. Like last year, I think it was the Pittsburgh Steelers matchup where there was all that drama surrounding him and A.J. Brown after the Carolina Panthers win. Then he completely dominated an elite Steelers defense. Against the Dallas Cowboys, the matchup is in Jalen's favor. They're wearing Kelly Green. The Eagles are undefeated in this jersey, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think there really is something to that. The Dallas Cowboys defense has struggled throughout the season. They've played a lot better as of late than early on in the year when they had to win or at least be in these 30-plus point shootouts week in and week out. But it's still one of the weaker personnels on defense that the Eagles have played all season long. So those things bode well for Jalen Hurts. But also, one thing that we don't talk about a lot with Jalen, I think he's a quarterback built for the indoors. I think that's another reason to expect a get-right game from QB1. His production inside domes is really good since 2022. Now, we all know that Jalen Hurts doesn't have an A-plus arm, so when it gets later on in the season, it gets colder. I'm not saying Jalen becomes useless, but yeah, I think there's something to be said for playing indoors. I think it impacts all quarterbacks in a positive way. But when you look at Jalen Hurts' track record playing indoors since 2022, I think it allows you to expect more from him in this game. I mean, just look at this year, the only indoor game that he's played so far. He had a perfect passer rating against the Minnesota Vikings. Like, he completely dominated that football game, put the team on his back in the second half, and won a really close game. Over 300 yards, multiple passing touchdowns, a deep, incredible bomb to Devontae Smith. Throws on the run were extremely accurate. Like, he moved the chains on 3rd and long. I'm not saying like Jalen is dependent on playing indoors. He's had some great games outside as well, obviously, but the track record inside makes me feel like he's going to bounce back against the Cowboys. Honestly, the only bad indoor game he's had in the last 3 to 4 seasons is during the collapse of 2023 when they got absolutely blown out in Jerry World, when it was the second loss of that collapse. That's the one game I can pinpoint and say he did not have success playing inside. But 2024, of course, Super Bowl 59. He won Super Bowl MVP because of that performance. The Rams regular season game last year, although the numbers aren't crazy, he didn't even have 200 passing yards. I thought because Saquon Barkley was having a historic day, Jalen wasn't able to put up the numbers that he showed he could. I think when you look at the tape of that matchup, Jalen was playing at an elite level. He had a 108 passer rating, a 68% completion percentage, a touchdown to A.J. Brown on the left side of the end zone. Thought he was really sharp, extremely accurate and decisive in that matchup. You look at the Dallas Cowboys game in Jerry World last year. He had over 200 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns on just 14 completions, and he completed 70% of his balls. In New Orleans, week 3, 311 yards and a 76% completion percentage on 38 passing attempts. The Eagles won a really close game. Jalen made a couple really clutch throws in the fourth quarter to close that win out. So the proof is in the pudding. I think it's absolutely fair to expect him after 2, I don't want to say abysmal games, but not great performances from QB1, that this is the bounce back game, that we should see the version of Jalen Hurts we saw in Minnesota this year against the New York Giants before the bye week. Considering the matchup, considering the jerseys they're wearing, considering his resume playing inside compared to outside, I think it's absolutely fair. I mean, even in 2023, that Rams game in LA, he had over 300 yards passing. 2022, Super Bowl 57. That is one of the greatest performances a single quarterback has had in the championship game in the history of football. 243 yards, 2 scores against Houston, had a 77.8% completion percentage, 243 yards against the Lions in the season opener. So, look, they could win this game ugly like they've been doing all season, and it will be very important in a loaded NFC to get to 9-2 to pretty much clinch the division already. 11 games into the season is really impressive. They'd be the first team to repeat as division champs since they did it in 2004. They would be in command of the 1 seed, which is so crucial in this conference. But I really do think, considering all the drama that has been surrounding this football team all year, just moving towards any sort of progress with this offense looking like a dominant unit, maybe not even dominant, but a consistent, successful unit that can score points, that can just, how about we start with scoring more than 1 touchdown a game and having some balance where there's a single game where the passing game has success and the running attack has success. Like, can we start there? I really do feel like this is the game that kind of decides who this offense is going to be moving forward. Like, you're 11 games in now at this point. You're playing indoors, like I said. It's a good matchup. If you're not going to figure it out here, are you going to do it at all? So, yeah, winning at all costs is very important in this matchup, but I think they know they need to have success on offense because after this, it's not going to get easier. It's definitely not going to get easier. Coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast, how fun has the 2025 season been for you? At 8-2, it feels obvious. It sounds obvious that it should have been a great first 10 games of the season, but with all the drama, where's your head at with this football team? We'll get into it coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I've been using PrizePicks during football Sundays and NBA tip-offs. It keeps every game exciting. I like picking my favorite players, Jalen Hurts, Tyrese Maxey, to see how my predictions play out. The new stacks feature is a game changer as well. You can now pick more on, let's say, Tyrese Maxey's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Thanks as always for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day, and thanks for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. The Eagles 8-2, headed to Jerry World, could get to 9-2, pretty much clinch the division, continue to be atop this NFC conference that has, I would say, like at least five, but probably six legitimate Super Bowl contenders between the Eagles, the Rams, the Bucks, the Lions, the Packers, maybe at this point. I don't know how I feel about Green Bay. They're very Jekyll and Hyde. I could see it, though, if they made a run, right? Those five teams, the Seattle Seahawks, I think, are legitimate as well. 6 teams in this conference. The San Francisco 49ers are pesky. The Chicago Bears, who the Eagles play next week, are 7-3 right now and actually are atop the NFC North. Although they've won 5 games where they're trailing with 2 minutes to go. It's very 2022 New York Giants-like. But the fact of the matter is, this season has been, like, in an overview, like, zoomed out at 8-2 in this conference, taking down the Rams already, the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Lions, the Packers, 5 really good football teams you're competing for a title with. It's been a success. The defense has been maybe the best in football, if not certainly top 3 or top 5. I mean, look at all the breakout players on defense that are having either career years or having their first time breakout. Jalix Hunt on the defensive line, Moro Ijoma, Jordan Davis won Conference Player of the Week again for the second time this year. You look at a linebacker, Nakobe Dean is even better than his breakout season of 2024. Jahad Campbell was a Rookie of the Year favorite before Dean kind of took his job. Quinyon Mitchell is by far a first-team All-Pro cornerback this year. Cooper DeJean, probably too. He's the best slot cornerback in the NFL. So the defense has been great. The offense, we know, has been where the drama is. It's been an absolute soap opera. But after winning a Super Bowl, being 8-2, having all those quality wins, you're about to clinch the division. You should be feeling really good. But why don't we? And it is because this offense has just been so dramatic. It's not just that they've been playing inconsistently the way they have been on the field, but they've kept everything in-house. I think it would be different. So when I asked the question, like, have you enjoyed the 2025 season? I would still say I have. Like, I've enjoyed the year, but I wouldn't say I haven't. It's part of the fun has been taken away because of the offense's inconsistencies. If the Eagles are winning games and it's because of their elite defense, that's still fun for me because the Eagles are still winning games. But it's the drama, it's the way they are handling this that I think has taken the joy out of it. Maybe not for you as fans, but as someone that covers this football team every single day, having to do a show, and I love doing it, but Monday through Friday, I've tried to objectively cover the drama and add context to it the best I can and balance talking about that versus the matchups and the on-the-field quantifiable stuff that we can really have, like, substance conversations about. I'm not going to lie, though. Like, for me, it's taken a little, it's annoying. It's every single week. The Philly media definitely draws and plays this out and drags it out. They definitely make it theatrical, but it's not their fault. That's what's even more frustrating about it is that the organization is adding the fuel to the fire. They're the ones starting the fire, supplying the wood, supplying the fire starter. I mean, it's the anonymous sources this week talking about being frustrated with Jalen Hurts. It's been A.J. Brown constantly all year long. It's just the garbage word salad that Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo give you during press conferences. So, yeah, me personally, I've still loved this season. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, my guys, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, cornerback's my favorite position. To watch these two do what they've done this year, especially Q, my favorite player of this football team, has been awesome. But yeah, I'm not going to lie. I wish this team could handle this in-house. Jason Kelsey was on Sports Radio 94 WIP the other day, and, you know, he was a perfect example of what I'm talking about with my frustrations with this team. You know, he said that he had a beef with Lane Johnson after the 2013 season. They were going back and forth about Chip Kelly's practice style, and they kind of didn't agree with each other and kept talking through the media. And Jason said that they did not talk for an entire offseason. Guess what? That was news to all of us because they handled it in-house. Yes, they still had beef. There still were problems inside that building, but we didn't know about it. They solved it in-house, and I think that probably made it easier to handle in-house. That's what frustrates me about the Jalen Hurts stuff and like talking about it to the media anonymously, or AJ Brown posting things on social media. Are they justified in their frustrations? Absolutely. But what, like, it can only do harm, in my opinion, than good, leaking it out. And maybe they don't care about the media circus that it causes, the distractions. Maybe those don't exist inside that building. But what positives can it bring by telling the media this, especially anonymously? Like, clearly everybody knows in that building that there are problems, and they're all clearly working to fix it. Why would you add more pressure on yourself by communicating it in the way that you do? Like, that's what I don't get. Like, the Jalen Hurts frustration this week. I posed the question on X, and I want to on this show as well. I totally get the frustrations with the way Jalen's been playing this year from a conservative perspective. But are you trading Jalen Hurts away? Are you moving on after this year? Like, what's your end game if you're that anonymous source talking about your quarterback? It's year 6 of this player, and you know who he is as a hot and cold passer. Like, yeah, he needs to play more aggressive this year. I think the offense needs to help him do that as well, the coaches especially. But, like, what's your end game by just saying all that stuff to the media? Like, to these inside reporters? Are you trying to get rid of Jalen? If not, it's worthless. It's a waste of time. It can only do harm than good. And a team that's been through this so many times year after year, and they've been able to overcome it, it's like, you'd think they would know better. So, yeah, I mean, I've still really enjoyed the 2025 season. I do not think that they're going to let all of this define them, and I don't think it's going to cause a 2023-like collapse. I think it'll be much more like 2024, where this, I don't know if they're going to win a Super Bowl again, but I do think this team will go on a run. But I just think all of it could have been, it's all self-inflicted. Just like the penalties on the field and the inconsistencies of the offensive game plan and the conservative approach. It's all self-inflicted wounds with this team. If they could just get out of their own way, I think this team could be on the verge of a dynasty. Like, I really do, or at least a team they've already been doing it for 4 seasons now, but a team that for a decade can compete for championships year after year. Not just squeak into the playoffs as the 7th seed, but like be the team to beat in this conference and maybe in this league. I know a lot of this is just the reality of being that kind of football team. And when a core has been together for so long, like, yeah, the Patriots ran into a lot of these problems during that dynasty. The Kansas City Chiefs have run into issues like this for sure. I mean, you look at in the NBA, the Lakers went through this, the Heat went through this, the Cavaliers went through this is just what happens in sports. So it is just, some of it's a reality, and you just have to decide if you're going to let it destroy the championship runs and you're another what-if team in sports history, or if you're going to fight through it. And the Eagles fought through it last year. They let it destroy them in 2023. What'll happen this year? Well, I think, Marcus Mosher yesterday of Locked On Cowboys posed a question to me, like, is a collapse coming? Like, could they get blown out in Dallas? And, 11, 12 weeks into the year, kind of like 2023, could it cause a collapse? And I said no, because look at everything they've already dealt with this year, and they're 8-2. If they were going to collapse, I think it would have happened by now. So I think they are going to fight through it. And at the end of the year, we're probably going to look back and say, yep, yet again, all that drama happened, but they still found a way to win. I think they really did learn from 2023. Clearly not enough to keep all of this in-house, but I think they've learned how to not let this stuff overwhelm them and consume the football team. And when you have just a unit like the defense playing out of their mind, I mean, the offense has tried to collapse this football team, but I don't think this defense will let you collapse. They're just playing so well on every level, in every phase of the game. So that's where my head is at with all of this. I really just hope that they can win a convincing game in Dallas. And I really, yes, like, the defense is going to be the strength of this team that carries them the rest of the way. But I think this offense I really want to see them win because of the offense, or just see them put together a consistent performance. They really need it for their psyche. I really do think right now that side of the ball is miserable, and they're not, like, the defense it's the tale of two teams almost. Like the defense is so tight-knit, close together, having fun, and the offense is just miserable. And maybe it's because the expectations are all on the offense, but they got to play more loose, free, play aggressive. The matchup's there. The jerseys are there. Jalen's track record inside is there. We'll see what happens. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is coming up next. LOE3, presented by FanDuel, coming up. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by Gametime. The NFL season is here. We are more than halfway through, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets, it can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I actually just bought tickets yesterday on Gametime for the Black Friday game next week at Lincoln Financial Field. Eagles-Bears, a matchup of two of the top three teams in the NFC right now. I saw amazing deals. Tickets for Eagles games as low as $100. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view of my seat before buying. So download the Gametime app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONNFL. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. All right, wrapping up the show as we always do on the Friday edition of Locked On Eagles. LOE3 presented by FanDuel. I got 3 player prop bets for you to take on FanDuel for Eagles-Cowboys. We have definitely bounced back over the last month. I am back in the positive unit share category. 2-1 last week against the Detroit Lions. We're at 12-18 on the year, so still 6 games under 500, but at plus 1.11 in units overall. So if you've bet with LOE3, you have won money. And considering the inconsistencies of this Eagles offense so far through 10 games, I'll chalk that up as a win. But I really do think, as I said early on in the show, for a lot of different reasons, this is going to be a get-right game for the Eagles offense in Jerry World. If it's not going to be this game, I don't know when it's going to happen for the rest of the year. We've seen a couple big performances already, the Vikings game, the Giants game especially. If they're not going to do it, though, here, even with those 2 performances we've seen this year, it's gonna be hard to feel confident that they'll do that at any point the rest of the way. Even though they still could do it, like this is the game, it's like, oh yeah, here it is. With all the drama, the NFL is saying, this is how you do it. In Kelly Green, in Dallas, against a rival, to win the division basically, to remain the number 1 seed, against a bad defense. Like, take it now. If you're not going to do it like now, I don't know when you're going to do it. So I think it's going to happen. Here are my 3 bets. Number 1, I'm going to take a 2-leg parlay for the non-AJ Brown weapons of the passing attack. I'm going to go with Devontae Smith over 4.5 total receptions, and then I'm going to take Dallas Goedert with over 3.5 total receptions. That's at plus 230. I like Smith's matchup against the Cowboys secondary. I like Dallas Goedert's matchup against the Cowboys linebackers. Do I think they're going to phase A.J. Brown out of this offense after getting 11 targets last week? No, not at all. But I do think after that was kind of like their here, dude, damn kind of game. Like, take the ball, like, get your targets. Now we're going to go back to spreading the ball around, and I think they need to make sure that they don't, like, they need to find a middle ground between phasing out A.J. Brown, but then in the name of getting him the ball, completely phasing out your other 2 elite weapons in the offense. So I'm going to bet on Smith and Goddard getting back into the mix in a favorable matchup. Devontae especially always has success against the Dallas Cowboys. So I'll take both of them to eclipse their total reception over-under, which is 4.5 for Smitty, 3.5 for Goddard. That's at plus 230 on FanDuel. My second bet is for Jalen Hurts to have over 205.5, 205 passing yards plus at minus 114. Like I said, Jalen Hurts normally, when he's played indoors since 2022, he has eclipsed 200 passing yards. He's had a lot more success, especially this late on in the season when it's getting colder outside. I just think for his passing ability, I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is not built for the outdoors, but his arm, I think, is obviously more effective indoors at this time of year than playing, outside in the cold. So I'll take the over. I like the matchup. Jalen, when he's playing in Kelly Green, normally has his best performances of the season. This year against the Giants, last year against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 2023, he was great against the Bills, was an MVP candidate at that time. A great game against the Miami Dolphins as well on Sunday Night Football. So you add all that together, the frustrations, anonymous sources leaking things about Jalen. Normally when his back is against the wall, when he is backed into a corner, Hurts tends to follow that up. When he's doubted heavily, he tends to follow that up with one of the best games he's had either in his career, on the season, you name it. Normally Jalen backs that up. I'm going to let history do the talking, and I'm going to put my money on the history of Jalen Hurts. So give me over 205.5 passing yards total at minus 114. That's not even that crazy of a number, to be honest. So I think we'll get there for sure on Sunday. And then I have a Saquon Barkley bet over 95.5 total yards, both rushing and receiving. That's at minus 114. Get your weapons going here, and we'll start winning you some money on LOE3 presented by FanDuel. That's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Guys, make sure your second listen is the Locked On NFL podcast. 2 episodes a day, Monday through Friday. You can find it wherever you get Locked On Eagles. Tyler Rowland starts you off with a shot of football espresso in the morning, and then Tony Wiggins, the barber, takes you into the shop to talk ball each and every day, Monday through Friday, wherever you get Locked On Eagles and on YouTube as well. All right, we'll be back after the game for the post-game show. Until then, thanks so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.